Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this sunny and beautiful World Migratory Bird Day 2020 in Barbados. My name is Jen Ward-Clarke, and I'm from the Caribbean Permaculture Research Institute, CPRI Barbados. I hope you've been keeping up with our work recently. CPRI has been collaborating with Walker's Institute for Regenerative Research, Education and Design, WIRED, to bring you a series of disruptive and innovative conversations through live living room sessions, where twice per week we focus on the topics of climate change, biodiversity, regenerative agriculture, and renewable energy. You can join those sessions on Facebook on Tuesday and Thursdays and also on YouTube. Today, however, we celebrate World Migratory Bird Day and are pivoting to bring you this online experience, which we would much rather be doing in person at Walker's Reserve in St. Andrew. But right now, when we are so disconnected from each other, we could not miss the opportunity to bring you this amazing workshop in an online format. The theme for this year's World Migratory Bird Day is Birds Connect Our World, and we couldn't think of a better opportunity to bring you into the world of birds. Today, we are pleased that CPRI and WIRED have teamed up with Julian Moore of Birds of Barbados, an avid bird watching enthusiast and a wealth of information. Julian will be taking us on an informative visual tour and give some of us, including myself, who are just beginners, a peek into the world of birding. Julian Moore has been an avid birder and bird photographer for close to 10 years. He has been engaging in hosting educational workshops, consulting, and guiding bird tours and walks for over 4 years. Julian has seen over 140 different species of birds in Barbados and has added 3 new species to the Barbadian Avian checklist. He's also the author of the most informative and popular online resource for birds in Barbados. He has made a number of contributions in words and images to journals and websites and blogs, both local and international. Let's welcome Julian into our session. Julian, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Jen. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us from home. I know this is a brand new realm for bird watchers. This is not what we do online. We typically are outside. So bear with us, everyone, as we deal with technical issues, and we're all learning how to do new things today. So Julian, I, for one, as a beginning birder, I am very excited to learn more about you yourself and your story. Could you tell us a bit about what inspired you to get into this hobby and how you got started, really?
Well, it started probably around 12 or in my teenage years when my mom bought me a book by Maurice Hutt. It was the year of the naturalist in Barbados. And through that book, he highlighted a number of birds in Barbados. But of course, at that time, photography wasn't a big thing. So it was a book with pictures. So I always said I would love to put pictures to this book because he was speaking about birds I've never heard about. Fast forward to 2012 and that dream went out of my head. And I was on a family tour just going around the island and I bought my spark bird, a common gallinule, in the Cherry Tree Hill area, which the bird is the picture you see here. And doing some research, I realized that this was a very common bird across the island. And they asked me the question, if this is that common, how comes I never seen it before? So
well, I can tell you, I've never seen it.
And doing some research, then I realized there are a lot of other birds that I haven't seen before.
Yes. So
in 2012 is when I really then start searching and looking for the birds of Barbados. In 2013, I said I would try to get 100 birds in Barbados. And speaking to the other birders, it was something that had never been done before. So I started the blog to chronicle it. During that period, I met 3 of the island's top birders, which would be Ed Messiah, John Webster, and Richard, who has now passed. And they have took me on their wings and they took me all around the island, and they sort of nourished my interest into birding. And it grew from there. So from then, the website then evolved into not just a log for what I have found throughout the year. Mind you, I didn't get the 100 birds in 2013. But what I did do, I was able to find two new birds of Barbados, and
in that year.
In that year,
Amazing.
the first one was a striated heron. It's like you see here, and it's family to our green heron. But this, and it's a South American bird. And the other one, a duck, which was really out of its way, a common shell duck. And you see that picture now of that duck. And
yes.
this was a big deal because it was the first record for the West Indies.
That's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, we was wondering how it got this far across this site. But from then and throughout the years, I continued birding. I found a lot of rare birds, and also met a lot of friends doing birding. I was able to, through the website, educate and nurture even persons who, like me, seeing birds for the first time and wonder where that bird came from. And we were able to encourage a lot of them to get out, and even though they may not have become birders, but get out and just to observe the surroundings and nature around them.
Absolutely. So how many birds have you seen in Barbados then thus far? What is your current record?
Thus far, 141.
That is an amazing number. I would not have known that there were 141 birds in total. So I'm assuming that there are more than that if that's your current total.
I'm chasing Ed Messiah. He has 195.
That is amazing. So just for those of us who don't actually realize that there are that many birds in Barbados, one of the reasons for to backtrack a little bit, one of the reasons for Barbados's lack of birds and lack of birding is its geological or just geographically removed situation. In South America, for example, there would be thousands of species of birds which would have been spotted already. So because Barbados is geographically removed from the island chain and its geological development over time led to a lot of anomalies in both flora and fauna. So what that really means is that much of what we think of as a local or endemic plants and animals are actually migrants to our area. Sometimes they're invasive species as well. So what I'm interested to hear about is the history of birds in Barbados.
Right. You're correct, Jen.
Bit of an overview there.
Right. You're correct. Like so far for the year, I have seen 77 species of birds of Barbados.
This year, 2020?
In 2020.
Amazing.
But by the end of December, the total might only be 110 that we've seen. That's the most that have ever been seen in a calendar year. In comparison with Trinidad now, you can see I saw 141 species in 3 days.
Right.
So Barbados has a vast difference. And the Caribbean islands, the other chain of islands that make up the Lesser Antilles, is different from Barbados, being they have that volcanic history, that volcanic beginning, and they're close and interconnected with, at some point, with South America. So a lot of their birds and their fauna came over from South America. So you will find that they will have more native birds, more breeding birds than you will find in Barbados.
Right.
Barbados now, which is an oceanic island, which means it came out of the sea, has, and is also isolated to the east. It makes it give it less fauna than you will find in the other islands. But what our uniqueness is our position. Because of our position, we are able to get birds from South America. We see birds from off the coast of Africa, Eurasia, and also throughout the North America and within the West Indies. And it's just like migration plays a big part in the birds in Barbados. For example, we have about just over 30 something breeding birds.
That
just
would
over
be
30.
native breeding birds.
Yes,
Okay.
native breeding birds. A few just come in and they nest.
Right.
But yet we have a history of over 270 something species of birds that have ever been seen in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them came here through migration. So when we speak of migration is a big part to Barbados. That's why the theme for this year, World Migration Day, Birds Connecting the World,
Yeah.
it's sort of, Barbados is the epitome of that. It's the link between all the regions of the world. All those birds are found here. We see, as you see in the picture, our first endemic species, the Barbados bullfinch, and this sort of emphasizes our difference. It's, if you go into the Lesser Antilles, they have a bird called the Lesser Antilles bullfinch,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks a lot like our Barbados bullfinch, which most of us may know as the sparrow.
Right.
But unlike with this, the female looks like our Barbados bullfinch, while the male is black and has a bright orange throat. In Barbados, both the male and the female looks alike, and that helps this bird to be moved to endemic species. It's only found like that in Barbados, and this is our only living endemic species.
So is this bird only endemic to Barbados, being it literally only exists here, or does it exist on the other islands just to a lesser extent?
It literally only exists here.
That is quite amazing.
So it's our bird.
Mm-hmm. It's our own bird. We should put him on a coin or a note.
And even going and our what we would call as our blackbird,
Yes.
the carrot grackle. That's also unique within the Lesser Antilles. If you go to like St. Lucia, or the female grackle is a grayish color and the male is black. In Barbados, both the male and the female are black. So Barbados, being that it's up here, it's unique.
Amazing. So our sparrow, we can see him year round, the Barbados bullfinch, as he is the endemic species. But as it is World Migratory Bird Day, can you tell us a little bit about how migration happens in Barbados?
Right. As we said, Barbados' position makes it unique when it comes to migration. We see birds from off the coast of Africa because we're so far east.
Mm-hmm.
So we have birds coming from off the coast of Africa. We have some coming from out of Europe. We have some that would come up from South America. And we have some that would
come from that far.
Yes. And some will come out of the Caribbean and also North America.
Mm-hmm.
So migration is going on in Barbados throughout the whole year. But when it comes now, there are two basic ones which really refers to this hemisphere, the moving from the breeding birds from North America through the Caribbean and to South America. Mm-hmm. And then they're going in the opposite way for nesting in North America. The celebration of World Migratory Day normally coincides with the birds returning to North America to breed. And
so spring
it's not
really.
Right, spring migration as we refer to, but it's not as visible as the southern migration for us, which will be the winter migration. Though we get a few birds, we don't see as much birds as what we see in the winter. And also
right.
Where we look, go ahead. Sorry,
the second World Migratory Bird Day is held in November. So what you're saying is, because it's spring right now in North America, we essentially have in Barbados, our birds are leaving or have left.
Right.
But in November, we do have a peak of birds which are arriving for nesting purposes.
Right. Yes. Right. So some birds pass through and some stay for the winter. So like we would have seen last month, for example, we would have seen a high number, and I'm sure you would have noticed at walking a high number of ducks, migratory ducks, teals. But if you look now, they would have already been left and heading towards North America for nesting. Mm-hmm. We also, but if now as you go into October, from July, August, and down to December, where the winter migration comes about, you'll be walking on the beach and you'll be seeing birds all over the place. If you are fortunate to just look in the sky and you see birds passing over. And especially during bad weather, you'll find birds just all over the place.
Yeah,
so that's the two.
Patterns do. So weather patterns are one of the things that do affect the migrating birds. Are there other, contributing factors to birds actually arriving in Barbados or the Caribbean as a whole?
Yeah, but before I answer that, could I just add, because remember I mentioned that we have migration throughout in Barbados because of our location throughout the year. So another unique thing to Barbados is that we see birds from Europe, which we refer to as the old world birds.
Okay.
And because we consider ourselves this region as the new world. Right. So Barbados is one of the few areas in the world where you could go into a wetland and see the old world bird and its comparison in the new world together. For example, we have Barbados was the first place in this region where the little egret, and sorry, I don't have a picture of the little egret, started to nest in the Graeme Hall Swamp. Its comparison also nests in the Graeme Hall Swamp, the snow egret. And if you put these birds together, they look almost alike. And Barbados is the only place one of the few places you will see both of them side by side, where you could actually look at both of them live and compare them. We also have that same effect with the grey heron and the great blue heron. And it's a unique thing. It's one of the things that encourage birders to come to Barbados to see things.
Small glitches there. I'm not sure if we've lost.
Just that there
we go.
Just that there are peak periods that you will see the movement.
Perfect.
The question you asked. You asked what the question you asked?
My question had to do with positioning Barbados as one of the reasons or the contributing factors to why birds are actually arriving in Barbados. So when you're saying that we are seeing one of the few places in the world where you can see these old world birds in conjunction with the new world birds, as you call them, what is one of the reasons for that?
Because of our location. Because of our location and because of the conditions, the wind, how the wind blows. And sometimes, especially during the hurricane season, as it travels across the Atlantic, sometimes brings along with it birds. But our location being it's the first point you hit in this region is one of the reasons why we have so many birds. So when you look at our avian history, where we have over 270 something species, you will see in there birds from North America, rare birds from North America, birds from South America, birds from Eurasia and off the coast of Africa. And we're unique like that. That's why it's so much fun to bird in Barbados. Why you may not get the 140 something birds in 2 days. It's like birding, going to a Cracker Jack. You know those snacks, the Cracker Jack, where as you go through, you find this prize.
Like a lucky dip.
Like right.
Yeah.
So you never know what you will find in Barbados.
That's amazing. Position Barbados as a bird watching destination, really. So during the migratory periods, during the peak periods that you mentioned, do we find that there are international birders who use Barbados as a destination?
You'll find, I remember we had some, as I said, we get some rare birds. I've known of birders who came in just for those birds.
Right.
But normally we find that persons that when they travel to Barbados, they will bird, unlike travel to Barbados to bird. But most of if you look at, and as we will get into eBird later, if you look at the bird sightings throughout Barbados, you will see a large percentage of the sightings are from visitors. Right. So we do have a large variety of visitors who bird in Barbados, and these are just the ones who record what they see on eBird.
Perfect. Yeah, the ones that you get to hear about.
Right.
So in terms of where birds go in Barbados, one of the areas that we'd like to talk about is Walker's Reserve. So Walker's Reserve, for people who may not know, Walker's Reserve is a silica sand quarry regeneration project in St. Andrew, where we have run birding workshops with yourself, Julian, before, and tours in the past. The regeneration project employs permaculture principles, and permaculture principles encourage the return of biodiversity. one of the key factors that indicates the health of a system and how well it's doing is the presence of migratory birds. So if you can tell us a little bit about the history that you know about Walker's Reserve, the role that it's playing in providing a safe habitat for migrating birds, and some of the birds that we can find there.
Right. One of the biggest problems with migration and that affect birding is loss of habitat. And having walkers provides that extra habitat for birds. For example, when I did the course there, I think it was 2018, we recorded, to that point, we had 38 species, have recorded 38 species at walkers up to that point. At this point, we have recorded 53 species. So I've been a large climb, because especially now where upside is dry, and a lot of the ponds are dried up. They have the haven of walkers. But even before that, walkers have a history in Barbados, unlike any other bird areas. For example, there's certain birds, walkers have recorded some unique species. For example, the common pochard, which in February of 2011, right? This bird, this was the first for the West Indies, and it was recorded at walkers.
Amazing.
Right. And then we had another bird which was pretty interested, is the Eurasian spoonbill.
I was lucky enough to see that one myself.
You saw it?
I did.
Well, we had two in 2017 and 18, and both of them started at walkers. And this is a bird that comes out of Europe, out of Eurasia, Asia, in that area, and both of them found itself into walkers. And the second one, which was a beauty, that was actually coming into its own in walkers. It was relaxed, and like if it was at home in walkers. Along with that, black-necked stilt, which is a shorebird that is common throughout the Caribbean, but not in Barbados. The first time it had ever been recorded nesting in Barbados was at walkers, and that was in 2011, where a pair had reared 4 chicks, and that was a first for Barbados, and it was also at walkers.
That's amazing. So the conditions that have been created at Walker's Reserve are conducive to attract the birds, but also to allow them to relax, as you said, and nest. So that's
correct. Another bird which really emphasized that was the piebald grebe. And this bird, we have through our birding throughout the island, we noticed that this bird it used to be in St. Andrew, but at a point it wasn't there anymore. We only found it nesting in the area in Christchurch. And last year we're happy to see it in St. Andrew again and breeding prolifically at walkers. So because of the habitat, because of the correct habitat, and these birds rely on the correct habitat, and because walkers have a variety of habitats, that they're able to attract birds like this. Another bird we are hoping to start nesting is the American coot. Walkers had for a year, probably a year and a half, they had a few days. This was once called the Caribbean coot. It was once in Denver, but then it was meshed back with the American coot. So it's taken the name of American coot. If recorded breeding in Barbados just once before. But the amount we're seeing at walkers and the length of time they stayed, we are hoping that soon it will be the second area in Barbados where it nests.
That's amazing. The story of the regeneration and the conservation that's occurring there is what really heightens my personal interest in birding. So as a newbie, I'm also eager to learn more as to what conservation we can get into. What can I personally do? What helps to support migrating birds? How do we get started in migrating birds? What are some of the practices and the benefits?
Well, if you started correctly, the first thing to do is be aware. Knowing is the only way you can make a active help or to make a decision is if you know. And by observing the birds moving around, you know, especially at walkers, you are aware that the habitat fits them. So you see that there was a need and there is a need. The second one is to become a birder. And why become a birder? Because when you become a birder, it educates you and it makes you even further aware about the comings and the goings of birds, what affects them, our native birds, the migratory birds, what they like, what they don't like, the habitats that they dwell in. And becoming a birder, then you have that natural intimacy to share. So then education is another aspect. And I see walkers is playing a big part in that. They're educating persons. The class that we did, we have some first-time birders, and they were amazed to see that these birds, and they were so readily and so easily seen. Mm-hmm. So education is also a big part. We can also, and this is another plug for walkers, we can also be conscious of the effect we have on the environment.
The humans have on the environment,
yeah, and littering, and we're conscious that the litter ends up inside the drains, end up in the water. Pesticides, we're conscious of the pesticides that we use because it can also affect what the animals eat. And one of the things about birds are like sentinels for humans. Like when in coal miners, the coal miners, they used canaries to sense when there was danger within the mines. So birds are like that. So when you see something happening with birds, you know something is gradually going to affect humans. And pesticides,
species, yes.
Right. Some of the most dangerous pesticides that were taken off of the market, DDT and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. How it was known that they were dangerous is because they started to affect birds.
Exactly. And similarly to how we know that we are doing a good job in regenerating the land or creating a habitat that contains biodiversity is the attraction of those birds. So the very fact that migrating birds even want to come indicates that your practices are supporting that. Right. So that's great too. We know that, so as a beginning birder as well, you mentioned a couple of times about ebird.org. So this is a system where we can learn, educate ourselves, and do some recording, which helps others to learn and educate themselves. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Right. Birders by nature are scientists, are citizen scientists, or amateur scientists, as you see. They accumulate data. They see the birds, they log the birds that they see. And what eBird is the form where you can store all that information. And that information allows scientists and policymakers to see trends. Are birds declining here? Why are they declining here? Are birds migrating later? So from that, you can see the effect of climate change on birds. They've seen birds moving later. Birds are not coming back. A smaller number of birds being seen in certain areas. So eBird is that platform, and it's easy. It's not. Say again, please.
It's an app we can use on our phones.
It's an app you can use on your phone. And is also you could use it, the interface on the internet. And they also produce for new birders like yourself. They also produce another app which helps with bird identification called Merlin. And that's also a free app. So these are our tools that birders use because it also helps us to map if we're looking for a bird, where the best place to go. For example, if I'm going on vacation and I want to go birding, my first look is eBird.
Right.
Because it tells me what I can see, where can I see it, and so on. So it's an interesting tool.
So
and
go ahead.
Not only are you able to share your sightings, but you also could share pictures, songs, bird songs, and it has a vast library of that information.
That's amazing. So you would use the two in conjunction. So you're using eBird to record what you're seeing or to check and see what others have seen in that area. But you might use the other one, which I'm sorry I didn't quite hear correctly. Merlin. So you would use that one to identify. So let's say I go outside and I see a bird. I could use that one to identify what I am seeing.
Yes, you could use it in two ways. Merlin allow you to if you see and you can, or you get a picture of it and you can memorize it. You could go to and compare the bird. But Merlin also have a section where you could use that picture. You could upload that picture or take a picture of your camera phone, and Merlin would analyze it and give you the identification of that bird.
So it's like peer analyzed, and then other people are giving you their interpretation of what you've seen or what you've recorded.
It's just accumulation of the It's just accumulation of the information that you put into eBird, the pictures and so on. So it gives you the analog algorithm will give you the best identification.
Perfect. That's amazing. So if anybody's actually just joining us today, we are here with Julian Moore of Birds of Barbados. We are very happy to have him join us on World Migratory Bird Day, and we're taking live questions from the audience. So if you have anything that you would like to know, please post your questions in the comments section below. Julian has joined us in the past at Walker's Reserve, where we've run in-person workshops and tours to educate the public and bring a bit of awareness about birding and the work that was done at Walker's. We really hope to be able to continue these discussions online while we are separated from everyone else. So please stay tuned to everything that we are doing. We hope to invite everybody who's watching today back for another round, perhaps with Julian, perhaps with some of our other birders on the island as well. So going live to our first questions from the audience, we have a question from Shay. Shay would like to know, why hasn't the birding community tried to organize with an association that could coordinate activities, public outreach, and possible conservation efforts?
That's a good question. And there are such associations, but they're not as widespread as we would like. We're also talking among ourselves, because there are very few active birders in Barbados. There's just about 3 of us. Active birders, but it is something that we have talked about for the reason of education, and in our own spheres we do educate. Absolutely. In various ways. Myself, John Webster, and even Edward Messiah, who is also one of the authors of one of the record books of Barbados. So, but there is a need for association which champions birds in Barbados.
Fantastic. Perhaps that's something that we can grow out of these sessions. So as we gain awareness and we get more people involved, that's definitely, we could see a need for something like that to coordinate all of our efforts. Our next question from the audience on Facebook is from John. I apologize, Mr. Khan, if I'm saying it incorrectly. Good day, great discussion. Can you comment on the risk to birds, especially the status of hunting birds in Barbados? So I believe he's referring to swamps where bird shooting does still occur on occasion.
I can't speak directly to hunting because I'm not in that area. But what I can tell you that the work is being done with hunters. The Bird Caribbean, the birding group the birding association that's responsible for Caribbean, I know they're doing work with birders. There is Bird Life, which is an international non-governmental organization. They are doing work here also. Yeah. I can tell you that Bird Life has funded a reserve in Christchurch for shorebirds, and one of the foremost experts in the Caribbean is found in Barbados, Wayne Burke. He runs that. So I know there are ongoing discussions with hunters, and I can tell you from my knowledge, every year that the number of hunting swamps that are in the island are diminishing, and happily
Yes.
they are going to reserves. Right now, there are two of them which have gone out of hunting and have remained open. They put in they fund it so that there's always water. They're well kept as a reserve. These and you'll be surprised the amount of knowledge you will gain from, because they know the birds, they know when they come, and but to speak directly into what's happening, I can't. I don't have that insight.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So our next question is from Sonia Peter. What is the most unique migratory bird sighting, and why would you say it's unique?
It would have to be the common shelled duck, because it's birds normally would travel, and some birds do end up here because they're lost. I mentioned that, because they may be blown off by wind and so on. The common shelled duck was
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, common shelled duck was a unique bird because it's out of its element. It's a bird that feeds on shellfish. It normally feeds along the sea coast and areas where they find shellfish. So that's probably the most unique. But I could mention the spoonbill was also another, and that is also very rare for this region. We walkers had a bird called it's the Eurasian marsh harrier. It was a bird that the first seen in Barbados by John Webster in, I think it was 2018. A harrier, a hawk, a big bird. It's a unique bird, and again, it was strange. There's a lot. Then there's also the common cuckoo. The common cuckoo is the bird that you would hear from your cuckoo clocks.
Right.
So we had one here, and that's probably one of the most amazing ones. But I've seen a lot of wonderful birds in Barbados. It's hard to just name one.
That's amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge. So our next question is from Abigail. Is the Graeme Hall Swamp being kept and preserved as an area for migratory birds?
Graeme Hall. Graeme Hall. Migratory birds come to Graeme Hall because Graeme Hall it sort of keeps itself. Once you allow nature, it would reclaim itself, but it could do with some help. The biggest danger is, and I visit Graeme Hall a lot, and I've seen when it had the big sewage issue, it changed the type of birds that go there. I saw birds that I would have not normally seen there. No, it's not as bad as it was during that period, but the biggest risk to it now is a plant, the water hyacinth, which is a invasive species of plant, and it's choking the canals. Wow. So once it was not there before I could see it plainly. It was not there before the incident. And we only noticed it there after the incident, and it's choking the canals. And I remember, and it's not being cleared. And what I have noticed this year, birds that you would have normally seen further up in the swamp are now further back in the swamp. Some of the warblers and so on, because the water isn't exposed. The hyacinths, it just fills the whole lakes with plants, so the birds can't get to the water. I am not sure if it's affecting the fish, but there have been a change. I think with the opening of the sluice gate to make the water brackish again, which would preserve the red mangrove would help. But it left alone, it would create itself, but it would correct itself, but it needs some help. The hyacinth is a headache. It's a very difficult plant to get rid of because just one bud could obliterate a whole water course. So
Graeme Hall is an example, but if you can elaborate a little bit on what dangers there are to breeding grounds throughout anywhere that birds would migrate to, Barbados as an example. I imagine that different changes involved in climate change, things to do with weather patterns, fires, floods, various different things like that would affect migrating patterns for birds.
Yeah.
Can we speak a little bit about that with relation to Barbados?
Climate change is probably one of the biggest challenges for migratory birds. A lot of birds are lost. Migration is a difficult thing for birds. Yeah, imagine a bird flying from North America, traveling through overseas to the Caribbean, bouncing through the Caribbean and into South America. A lot of them are lost at sea, especially during bad weather.
Mm-hmm.
But without areas to land, to come and feed, it's difficult for them. And to give you an example of the Chancerilian swamp on the south coast, last year, February 2018, they had enough water at Chancerilian that you were able to see a American flamingo came in.
Oh, wow.
I mean, last year, again, there wasn't as much water, but it had enough water where you had migratory ducks. This year, and this is in the same February, this year in February, there was no water at Chancerilian, so there were no migratory birds.
Very true. So no, none.
None.
They just pass by us and keep going.
Or they moved, hopefully they moved to a different location, but if they don't have, and birds, and in migrations, sometimes a bird will only come down to feed because he's not able to. What birds do before migration, they stock up on food, they stock up on fat.
Mm-hmm.
And during migration, they burn off that fat. And after that fat is burned off, they start feeding on the tissue. So if they don't have that area to stop and replenish that, a lot of them will be lost at sea.
Right, sadly. So creating
so that's why,
is paramount, really.
And that's why walkers is such. Yeah, that's why the part walker displaying is such an important one.
Perfect. So Tiffany would like to know what's the best time of year to bird watch in Barbados. I think we touched on this a little bit, but
yeah, Barbados is there's always migration going on in Barbados. So we find that if you're really new to birds and you just want to enjoy them, the southern migration is the best. This is between August and December because you can literally walk on the beach and see birds.
Right.
If you're looking for the real exotics, for lack of a better word, like this time the southern migration, the northern migration, which is around this time, you're not able to see as much birds, but the birds you see are normally very good, very nice. Someone sent me a picture today to identify a bird. It wasn't a good picture, but I could almost bet it's a scarlet tanager. Imagine a bird as bright and red as fire, and with black. It's one of the most prettiest birds on earth.
Wow.
But they pass through here at that time of the year, and if you're fortunate, you get to see them.
You just have to be outside, make yourself available. Otherwise, if you're not outside enjoying nature, you're not
and also enjoy. We have some nice birds here too. Just enjoy it. We have a bird. One of the prettiest birds in creation is the yellow warbler, and the range is expanding now. Where you could probably have one in your backyard. It's a bright, pretty yellow bird with white with a reddish or scarlet color cap for the male and some streaks on the breast. It's a joy to see. So you don't have to wait till birds come in.
So migration season is the peak, but there is definitely
always birds to see
all year long.
Yes.
So Jamal says, hi, for a number of years, I have seen a huge bird gliding in the area of the fish market in Bridgetown. Do you know what type of bird it is? A huge bird.
That's a magnificent frigate bird. And one of the best kept secrets on the island is if you go to Pearl Bay or Six Men's Bay, when the fishermen are cleaning their fish, you can really get to see these birds at close up, and you'll be amazed at the size and the agility of these birds. So if you ever get a chance, Jamal, get to Pearl Bay, which is by the Light and Power generator, or get to Six Men around when the fishermen come in with their catch, and you will be amazed at this. If you think those birds are huge when you see them flying in the sky, you'll be amazed at how big they are and how agile for birds, how agile they are for that size. And let me tell you, just to demonstrate how agile they are, one of the main ways they get food is to run down other birds like gulls and force them to regurgitate their food, and then they take it. They're so agile that they can't outfly them.
How large would the bird that you're talking about be? What would the wingspan or the height of the bird?
The wingspan should be over 4 feet for sure. I can't tell you it's offhand.
Amazing. So Leandre would like to know, we see the cattle egret or cowbird all over the island. Is it native or does it migrate here?
It wasn't native a couple of years ago. The first cattle egret was seen, I think, in 1957. But that is a bird that also came from the old world, came from off of Africa and up that side. But it's moved into our region and it's enjoying the conditions. So you can say it's native now because it's the most numerous new egret species that we have here.
Wow. My grandmother actually tells a story about that, about she emigrated to Canada, and when she returned to Barbados, there was this new bird, the egret, that she had never seen before. So I actually knew the answer to that question. Our next question is actually from somebody on YouTube who's tuning in through YouTube. So that is great to see. How many ways are there to call birds? Is there a different call for every different species?
I know that person. I know why they're answering that. They're answering that question. They're birds. Yeah, they're birds that came up with ingenious ways to attract birds, especially smaller birds. Smaller birds are like grackles. They always champion. They always come to the rescue of other birds. So if you make a sound, there's certain sounds you can make, like birds that are in distress. They will come. They will come to the rescue of that bird. So sometimes they mimic that bird.
So the question: is there a different call for a different species? Yes.
Yeah.
And do you do much bird calling?
Yes. That person know I do. That's why they ask. But there's one call I do. It's called fishing. It's a sound that you make. And it attracts the smaller birds. But it's always not to do it for long periods because you may distress the bird. But they actually come in. They actually come in an agitated state to defend.
Okay. It's very interesting. Our next question is from Julie. Are there any species of birds in Barbados with dwindling populations due to habitat destruction or other threats? And do you have any recommendations to mitigate loss of the species?
The yellow warbler, as I mentioned, was a bird that was dwindling. But over the past few years, the numbers have started to come back. And this is not scientific, but we have put it down to probably the River Tamarind, the explosion of the River Tamarind across the island. Because they produce River Tamarind, because they're a pea, they normally have worms that feed on them, and these birds feed on worms. There's the grass finch, which I commonly call the canary. I think they're sold in pet shops as grass canaries.
Okay.
They may suffer from not predation, from persons catching them and selling them.
Yeah.
Right.
So the trade
is pet trade, and it's illegal. There are laws to protect them.
It is legal, or it is illegal?
It's illegal. It's illegal to take them. But because we see a lot of birds in their ones and twos, that's why education is important. Because persons for some reason, if they see a strange bird, especially if they see a big bird, they think of throwing stones at it. And I remember a couple of years ago, a youngster threw and killed a pelican.
Wow.
And I've heard stories of osprey being injured because of persons throwing stones at them.
So this is where the education comes in to make sure
Yes.
that the understanding is there. The conservation is important. The reason that we need the birds in our island is important. This is where the education, especially for young people, which I know that you've partaken in workshops and things in schools, and that's a part of what both Walkers and CPRI are looking to get more into in the future as well. So our next question is from Shari. What are the 5 most important changes locals can make to support the bird population and migratory bird population in Barbados?
First is awareness. Awareness. And I will break it into what could be done at a policy level and what could be done at a personal level.
Mhm.
Policy-wise, there need to be awareness and the showing of awareness. For example, Graeme Hall. Graeme Hall is a very important birding area, not just for Caribbean, because Barbados is not in isolation. And again, going back to the theme of migration connecting the world, we all need to play our part for birds to reach their destination. If it's being done in one island or one country and it's not done in the other country, and we have to do it together. It have to be connected. So at the policy level, you have to think more
Globally.
Right.
Or
So
regionally.
Graeme Hall is a very important site.
Mhm.
And Graeme Hall, Long Pond is also a very important area. And Chancery Lane is an important area, just to mention. And there are others, but those are the 3 that comes to mind. Policy could protect them. And not just protect them, but not because Graeme Hall was supposed to be protected, but really protect them. Personally, there's a lot you can do personally. Again, being aware is one way. You could also plant native trees which attract birds. And I know John Webster have a nice course on that. You can also leave out, you could feed the birds bird baths, feeders.
Water, especially, yeah.
Yeah, and those, you'll be surprised the amount, because as I said, when birds are migrating, it's stressful and they lose weight. And to have those feeding areas along the way could help them along in migration. So that's what all of us could do. Plant the correct trees, plant the trees that and the most native trees that the birds like, and not just migrant birds, but also all birds too. And feeders, both hummingbird feeders and seed feeders, because we do have examples of migratory hummingbirds here. We have seen migratory hummingbirds here before. And become aware.
Become aware.
Yeah.
Step 1, become aware. So I think that's what our session is mostly about today.
Yeah.
So we have a few more minutes and we have a few more questions too. This one is coming in from Facebook. What are 1 or 2 birds of interest to look out for on the East Coast over the coming months?
East Coast, coming months. A nice bird to see on the East Coast. This is your side, and it's the osprey. The osprey is always brings joy because of the size of this bird and the grace of it. It's normally seen feeding the osprey is a hawk that feeds only on fish. So if you see it flying over your chicken coops or anything like that, don't be afraid. It only feeds on fish. So it's normally around. You're almost guaranteed to find one in Walkers along the Long Pond area and on the East Coast for sure. You can also see peregrine falcons at this time of the year along that coast. Another wonderful bird to see on the coast, the East Coast around this time, is the black swift. It's a bird. The black swift is a bird that nests. It migrates to Barbados to nest.
Specifically to Barbados, it's not just passing through?
No, it's not just passing through. It nests in some caves off of St. Philip. And that's a nice bird to see. But we find that over the last couple of years, we've been seeing them around Walkers, around East Coast Road, and so on. So that's 4.
That's 4. So our most common birds. The next question is about our wood doves and our sparrows. What role do they play in the ecosystem?
Yeah.
These are the ones that we see all year round.
Birds. Even if you're birds play a role. Birds play a role, and the truth is, a lot of things scientists don't know at this point. But what the little they know on what the role birds play, it shows a lot. As I mentioned before, the sentinels for humans. They tell us, they alert us of problems. They take a lot of insects out of the environment. Wood doves now, wood doves are they also feed on a lot of ground insects. They feed on a lot of seeds. So they used in broadcasting and seeds, they will take seeds from here and take them to another area.
Yeah, they plant for us.
The sparrow, the Barbados bullfinch, no, that's unique to us. So that's our bird. It's accustomed to living in Barbados. It's built for Barbados. That also is a seed eater. It's also used in pollination because, as the picture I had, you see it's feeding on the flower of another iconic Barbados species, the aloe.
Yeah, that's interesting. Most people don't realize that the aloe flowers quite so beautifully.
Yeah, it is. So it's also used in pollination. And with the decline of bees, everything that pollinates is really helpful.
Absolutely. Are there any birds in Barbados which are considered either extinct or are whose habitats are being degraded to a point where we're seeing a lot less of them?
There's a bird. Barbados have a number of, while not endemic, are endemic subspecies, means that they have variants from the original species. We have a bird that was here, I've never seen it here, but I know that some work was done here trying to locate it. It was the scaly breasted thrasher. So it's not here, it haven't been seen here in a while.
In a while, yeah.
But it's an endemic subspecies to Barbados. But with the Barbados is a water scarce area, and when things are being developed, just as Walkers did, and another example is BRC, you can live in like wet areas or even just open pasture, open areas, and that would be enough to help out with our local and migratory birds also.
Great. So I think we just have time to sneak in one more question. Jay would like to know, what are the most popular birds that migrate to Barbados?
Popular and the most numerous?
Yeah.
Popular as in the most numerous, or the ones that we see, or the one everybody would like to see? I could go the most numerous groups of migratory birds are the shorebirds. And there are a lot of species of shorebirds. And those are birds you would see probably on the beaches, the sandalling on the beaches, the ruddy turnstones, and those are birds that you'll find in the wetlands. The best, most popular that people we look forward to see. Most persons are excited when they see the osprey, or the raptors are persons normally love the raptors.
Mm-hmm. They're just interesting and exciting to see, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, Julian, it has been thrilling to have you on here. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really do hope that we can continue this conversation as well. So while we don't have something set in place at this very moment, we are looking to continue the conversation with yourself and other avid bird watchers in Barbados. While we can't do it in person, we're interested in continuing this conversation in this forum for education purposes, because as you said, the education is one of the first steps that a person can take to get themselves excited and to learn a bit more about everything that goes on with birding in Barbados. The conservation aspect of it is where I think that a lot of people would be very interested as well. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Just as a reminder, CPRI and Facebook, we banded together with Birds of Barbados and Julian Moore today in celebration of World Migratory Bird Day. The theme of this year's World Migratory Bird Day was, or is, it's still daytime, connecting the world through birds. we were extremely excited to connect with you. I hope that all of our audience feels that their questions were answered. And if they have any further questions, you can always rewatch this on Facebook or YouTube. The replays will be there all the time. Feel free to comment. Julian, how can we connect with yourself or with the birding community should we want to get out there and do a bit of birding in our backyards while we can get outside?
Both John and I are on Facebook. I have a Facebook page called The Birds of Barbados. You can find it there. You're also on Twitter on Birds Barbados, and you can also come to the website at and just leave a question in the comments, and we'll get right back to you.
Perfect. And the website is just on the ticker at the bottom of our page here, and we'll put the links in our comments as well for the viewers who are watching us after the fact. So any last comments, Julian? Anything to say to inspire birders around the island?
Go see the birds. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. And you'll be surprised at the birds that we have here, the beauty. Barbados is unique, so it's unique for the island that it is. And there are species that are here that you probably wouldn't see no other place in this region. So get out there and find them. Thank you, Jen, for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to enlighten all of us. It's been very, very interesting. I for one, am excited to get outside as well.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you to our viewers.
Okay, bye.